Hey everyone, happy almost March. This is another Q&A. You might be wondering why I'm wearing my Bass Pro Shops hat. Wish I was sponsored by them, but actually my friend from Vegas just came to visit and he got me this as a little present. Thank you, John. All right, we're about to have seafood buffet. Chris and John. That was good. So we're gonna be going over a bunch of questions. I just got back from Vietnam and a lot of people have been asking, what's the differences between living in Vietnam versus Thailand versus in Ukraine? And because the Chiang Mai versus Kyiv, or the Bangkok versus Kyiv video was so popular, the cost of living video was so popular, I thought I'd do something else like that. But first, let's get to a couple Q&A, little questions and answers from all y'all. Ron's3103 asks, hey Johnny, I'm planning on doing some international travel next year and I'll be taking my cell phone with. It looks like I have built-in international plans, but I also see you buying SIM cards when you go to one country or another. Is that for support of your hotspot or for something else? Good question. And I've been traveling now off and on since 2008, before there were smartphones. Believe it or not, I had like Edge, not even 3G, like 2G on my phone when I first started traveling. And we literally had to buy SIM cards to call home. Now it's so easy with things like WhatsApp or Telegram or FaceTime, except there's one country where all that is banned. Try to guess which one. It's somewhere I've been recently.
Many of those platforms have been abused. A lift of that ban, if it's for the voice calls or for the broadcasting of many of the things that they do, and this is going to happen soon. And this is what we know and understand from the Telecommunication Regulatory Authority here in UAE.
UAE, Dubai. So it works if you're there for less than like 72 hours or something. So most people who travel never even notice. Maybe for like a week you can kind of get away with it. But if you stay longer and you're using their internet, whether it's Wi-Fi or like a cell phone package, it just doesn't work. It's crazy. I've heard you can use a VPN to get around it, but it's really annoying because if you have friends or family from back home that want to call you to check in on you, you can't video chat them. You can't voice chat them, you can't video chat them. So what you do is you leave each other these long voice memos. That's one reason why I don't live in Dubai. But anyways, the reason why I always get a SIM card when I land is because it's much, much, much cheaper than these roaming plans of the US. In general, if you have T-Mobile or Verizon or one of these, you can pay, let's say $80 to $100 a month and you can get roaming. But the problem is it's really slow and you're locked into paying $80 or $100 a month every month. I guess if you lived in the US and you just travel a little bit, it's more convenient. So maybe just stick to that. I have friends who do that. My friend who visited for 2 weeks, he just uses US card because it's just easier. But I've given up my US plan. I switched it to Google Voice, which is free, to be able to get SMS, like two-factor notifications. And if you really need to text me or call me, you can call me on the Google Voice. But really, when I'm in a country, let's say Thailand or Vietnam or in Ukraine, I just have to pay their local rate. So I'm not paying $80 a month or $100 a month. Now I might be paying $7 a month or $15 a month. And I get super fast speeds, much faster than if I was roaming with a US plan. And I don't have to worry about data limits, because usually you get either close to unlimited or something like 20 or 30 gigs, which is more than enough for most people. But if you still have a US number, if you live in America, if you live in a country where you need to answer your phone because you don't know who's calling, maybe it's the delivery person, it's nice to be able to filter out these spam calls and also to keep safe when you are traveling. So big thanks to this week's sponsor, Aura. They were a reoccurring sponsor from last month, and I've been using them for quite a while. And it's nice knowing that I can log on to the public Wi-Fi somewhere in Vietnam or at the airport in some random country and feel protected. My identity was attempted to be stolen a few months ago. My credit cards got hacked and they were being used kind of all over the East Coast in the US when I was clearly not even there. I had all these different things, but luckily I'm able to monitor all that with Aura. And the best thing about Aura is as a package, you can get data monitoring, identity credit monitoring, Experian credit lock, a password manager, antivirus protection, a VPN, home title monitoring, and something called data broker removal. If you're curious why so many places share your information, it's not just so they can hack you, it's so they can make money advertising you, selling your data. And it's hard to go around and request from all these different places to remove it, even if you know where to go. But with Aura, they just do it for you. And also, they can protect you and your identity online as well as your personal life offline. So it's up to you. You can either continue to let these companies profit off of your personal data, or you can use my link in the description below, aura.com/JohnnyFD, to get a 2-week free trial and see if your personal information has been compromised. Thanks again to Aura for sponsoring this video. People are probably going to ask about eSIMs. They're convenient, but generally they're more expensive than buying a SIM card on the ground. Second question by Cannondale. The tourism infrastructure is probably more developed in Thailand than Vietnam. I'd like to hear your thoughts on this matter. 100% better. I mean, even just getting money out of an ATM. First off, in Thailand, there's ATMs everywhere. Right when you go out of the airport, inside the airport, there's a bunch of ATMs. Right when you go out, there's a bunch. Same in Vietnam. I didn't have problems getting money out of the airport, except their maximum withdrawal limit is a very small number. I think it was something like $100. I take you normally about 20,000 baht. Maybe you can take 25,000 baht at a time. So you can take $600 out, no problem. And in Thailand, more places take a credit card as well. Vietnam, it's almost all cash. So in Vietnam, you really need cash. And because you only take out $60 at a time, and they charge you a lot of fees, it's pretty bad. Infrastructure-wise, in general, in Vietnam, it's just not as good. Their Wi-Fi is actually very good. And you can buy a SIM card at the airport, which is very strange. It's very unregulated. There's like 7 booths. They all sell the same thing. And I've read a lot of reports before I went on which one was the best. And basically everyone said it's a crapshoot. You can buy one, everything will be fine. Or you can buy one and in 2 days you'll get shut off. It's just like, it's literally just dumb luck. I'll go into this a lot more a bit later on. But in general, Thailand is the gold standard of infrastructure, as in landing at an airport, having a very good time, you know, at the airport and the queues and everything, be able to get money, be able to get online, be able to getting a fairly priced transport or taxi to your hotel, checking in, be able to you know, land and call your parents and say, hey, I'm safe. To me, that's like a very basic, you know, travel itinerary. And then being able to continue working online, whether it's making a Zoom call for a meeting, whether it's being able to upload a video or even just photos, being able to just kind of get around. That is, to me, the bare minimum. And to me, it's almost required nowadays in 2024. I know some of you more adventurous backpackers who might go without even a phone. Go have your adventures. But I think for most travelers nowadays, this is kind of what they expect. All right, another very common question that I've been getting is, how do you avoid food poisoning when you travel? I was in Thailand for 2 weeks and got quite a bad stomach bug. To tie this into Q&A, which country has cleaner food, Vietnam or Thailand? Thank you to KMPQ for asking that question. I've actually only gotten food poisoning a few times in my entire life while traveling, and I've been all over. I've been to 50 plus countries, including having, you know, ice in Mexico, you know, brushing my teeth with tap water everywhere. In general, I have a pretty strong stomach, and I recommend everyone 2 things before you start traveling. One is stop using antibacterial hand soap. It's great if you need to kill something right away, like if you had just been touching something, or after like jiu-jitsu when you know you might have some bacteria on you, but don't use it every single day because it also kills all your good bacteria. Second is make sure you consume good bacteria, whether it's probiotics or kimchi, fermented foods, things like that. It just makes you stronger in general. So when you do travel, you'll be good. The places I've gotten food poisoning is, so in 10 years of coming to Thailand and having maybe 500,000 meals, I've only had food poisoning once, and it was at a nice restaurant on Koh Lanta, of all places, at like a Western style like restaurant, because I had a salad there, and I know it was them because me and my girlfriend at the time had every single meal separately, except for that one meal together where we shared that salad, and we both got really ill for like a week. The problem with salads is they're uncooked. Sometimes it comes from them just washing the vegetables with tap water, but more likely it's because they cross-contaminated by using either the same knife that they cut maybe like something else with, maybe it's fish or raw meat or whatever it is, and then they cut the avocado or they cut the lettuce or whatever it is, or just from not washing their hands. I had a really bad experience with that about a week at home. We were both deathly ill, and because it's a small island with small island mentality, everybody blamed us, saying, "Oh, it's your fault, we got sick." So that left a little sour taste in my mouth with that place. But in general, the street food in Thailand is very, very clean. I never worry about it. I eat street meat all the time. I go to the night markets all the time. And one very easy way to tell if a place is going to be okay or not is to, number one, see if locals eat there. But second, see if the restaurant servers or cookers are actually eating their own food. When you go to these little Thai stalls, they're always eating their own food. So they want it to be clean. Vietnam, I didn't have any problems, but as you saw in the videos, they reuse the same seafood and let it kind of get warm and then refreeze it again every day. Luckily, I don't eat that much seafood, but I can imagine that would get you sick, especially day after day after day of them icing the lobster, not having it be sold and putting it back again. But personally, I didn't get sick, so hard to say. But if I had to say, I wouldn't worry that much about either of the two countries. The only place that you will get sick are like places like India, and anywhere that has that same kind of culture. Nepal, for example. I got stomach bugs in Sri Lanka very often, and it's very easy to tell because if you just go into their bathrooms, they're really dirty. Like if you go into a bathroom in Thailand or Vietnam, they're relatively clean. Even if it might be an older, crappier bathroom, they're like relatively clean. But in Nepal, they're disgusting. In India, they're even worse. I think they just don't care that much about hygiene. It's not important to them. They see bathrooms as a dirty place anyway, so they just don't clean it. So I don't think they're washing their hands very often. Yeah, it's just a really bad place. But pro tip, if you do ever travel anywhere, bring some activated charcoal with you. They sell it in every pharmacy and every 7-Eleven in Thailand, and those are the best natural cures to stop diarrhea, to stop getting a stomach bug, because there's different levels of food poisoning, and the most common one where you just have diarrhea, 1 or 2 pills of active charcoal, they work miracles. And surprisingly, they don't even sell it in Sri Lanka or in Nepal. There's a lot of questions about my dating life. Webeasy asks, which girls would you not date? Which ones do you prefer? Thai, Vietnamese, Ukrainian, Russian, American, Middle Eastern. Z Stockholm asks, what do you think about online dating? Joseph Sullivan asks, how's your dating life? Guys, I used to be really, really open about my dating life when I was a very insecure nerd in my 20s, and I was trying to learn how to even talk to girls. I way overshared during my pickup artist days, having very quickly learned some things are better kept private. So I'm not really actively dating right now. It's complicated. First off, all the Ukrainians in Thailand are couples. They all have a boyfriend. I don't really want to date a Russian girl anymore. I mean, obviously I find them attractive, and there's tons of hot ones everywhere, but it's just not, I don't care. Like, even if they hate Putin and they don't support the war, I don't want to go out of my way to try to meet and date a Russian girl right now. I feel like it's kind of just wrong. If I met a really great American girl, like that would be the best because we have the same passport. We have this, we could travel the same places. If we ever wanted to, we could move back to the U.S. without, too much trouble. Unfortunately, it's just not been it's not been a match. Let's just put it very lightly there. And when I was in Ukraine, actually my plan, I'll tell you right now, was during all last summer, I was dating a lot because I wanted to meet a girlfriend to eventually, become my wife and have kids. I was like, it's time to settle down. But if it doesn't happen, I'm gonna go to Thailand and then try again next year. So that's my plan again, is this summer when I go back to Ukraine, if I meet a nice girl, I will settle down, have some kids, move out to the countryside somewhere, raise some sheep, enjoy that life. But until then, if I'm single, I'm happy. Peter Meister says, given your obvious love for Thailand, would you not consider moving there permanently, maybe even buying property? Well, I have thought about moving here many, many times. And I was basically living here most of the year for like 10 years before I moved to Ukraine. The main reason why I didn't stay here is because of visas. There's no path to permanent residency, and there's no, you can live here, you can get married, you can have kids, you can buy property, and you will still never be a green card holder or a permanent resident. Thailand just doesn't want foreigners to be here permanently. They like us here while we're here and spending money and everything's okay, but they want to keep foreigners kind of at a distance. As far as buying property, the only legal way for foreigners to own anything is to buy a condo unit. So I can buy this unit I'm in right now. This one costs about $100,000. If this was any other country where, like, let's say this is the US or somewhere in Europe, I would buy it because it's a nice place. I like the amenities. I like the layout. I like the location. But the problem in Thailand is prices generally don't go up. And that's kind of for a handful of reasons. One, building codes. There's kind of unlimited potential to just build another unit right next door. And you see it all the time. If there's a vacant piece of land anywhere, they're just going to put up a new building. Instead of getting stuck through the process like in the US or Canada or anywhere that has kind of a problem with a short housing supply, you can't just put up high-rise skyscraper condo buildings everywhere. Usually there's not enough land or, there's zoned, so you just can't do it. But Thailand, seems like you can kind of just build condos wherever you want. Second is they don't maintain buildings very well, and partially that's not their fault. Partially it's because of the severe weather. So imagine like very severe heat with high humidity and a really, tormentuous rainy season. So if places are not continuously updated, like you need the AC running most of the time to keep it dry so you don't get mold and things like that. And the outside of the building needs to be repainted every probably 2 or 3 years just to be able to keep the place, from falling apart just from the weather. Thailand also has very, very low HOAs. So homeowner associations, property fees, whatever you want to call it. Monthly here, it might be $20. So $200 or $300 a year. You can't really maintain a building for that amount. And people don't like getting special assessed every year saying, okay, you need to chip in $5,000 for us to repaint everything. So in Thailand, the mentality is you buy a condo when it's brand new, you enjoy it, and then just let it slowly deteriorate. And if something breaks, maybe you'll fix it, maybe you won't. But if it's cosmetic, you just let it go. And that's why property values don't really go up. Third, and probably the main reason why I don't buy a place here, is because it's so easy and so cheap to rent, it doesn't make any financial sense. The only 2 reasons why I bought a place in Ukraine, one was because it was such a pain in the butt to rent a place midterm. So if you want to stay, a few nights or a week, you can check into a hotel. It's not a big deal. But if you wanted to stay somewhere a month, 2 months, 3 months, there was no options because everywhere required a minimum of a 6 month to 1 year lease. And if you want to stay somewhere for a year, yeah, there's plenty of options. It was easy, but I was never there year round, so it didn't make any sense. So I just got so tired of looking for the non-existent, monthly rentals where you either got like a really old, crappy Soviet grandma flat and babushka flat for way too much money, or you'd have to pay way, way, way too much for a modern kind of designer flat. That was one big reason why I ended up buying a place, and actually buying two places. Secondly, there was the benefit where if you invest $100,000 or more into Ukraine, you can apply for permanent residency. That ended up being very complicated with a bunch of other things, but at least that gave me a right to live there, full time or as long as I wanted. I didn't have to be limited to 3 months, every 6 months. AJS asks, are there more Russians in Vietnam or in Thailand? I think it depends on which part you're in. Russians like to kind of group together. So like in Chiang Mai, there was almost no Russians, while here in Pattaya or in Phuket, there's almost all Russians. Like literally, if you go to a night market, that's all you hear. Versus in Chiang Mai, I heard French, German, English. So in Vietnam, the city where all the Russians kind of stay together is Nha Trang. I don't know how that became, but probably because it's cheap. There's a beach, and because a lot of other Russians were there. So if you go there, it's kind of like the Phuket or Pattaya of Thailand. As far as visas, the reason why both get so many is because Vietnam has now given a 45-day visa-free entry to anybody with a Russian passport. So they can just show up for free. They get a month and a half. They can travel somewhere else, come back in another 45 days. Really easy for Russians to stay in Vietnam for a long time. And there's other visas they can get as well. Same in Thailand, where the Thai government has decided to give Russians a 90-day free visa for arriving. Technically, it's kind of like a 90-day visa exemption or whatever you call it. But basically, they just show up. They can stay for 3 months, never have to travel, go anywhere, not pay a dime. Welcome to Thailand. Meanwhile, Ukrainians, I think, get 30 days? Americans also 30 days here. And Americans in Vietnam, we actually have to apply online and pay, $25 to get the visa. I think that's the American tax for the Vietnam War, the failed Vietnam War. And before I answer the last question about Plan B and kind of my future plans about Ukraine, let's actually just dive into Numbro. So if you're comparing the capital cities of Bangkok versus, Ho Chi Minh City, Saigon, or Hanoi, in general, Bangkok's more expensive in every category, but in Thailand, Thais also earn more money. The average salary in Bangkok is $650 US, versus in Saigon, it's $470. But in general, I wouldn't live in either of those cities. So I'm going to compare Pattaya, or Jom Tien, where I'm living here, and Da Nang. Both much cheaper than the capitals. If you want to follow along or you want to check out your own cities, I'm using a site called Numbero, which is the best source for expats or digital nomads to check out cost of living. So according to Numbero, across the board, Da Nang is cheaper, but I'm going to kind of dive into that from my personal experience. So first, food. They're saying that food is half the price in Da Nang than it is in Pattaya. They're saying the cheapest food you can get in Da Nang for a meal would be 40,000, which is $1.62, and that is correct because for that amount, I've eaten, pho, which is the Vietnamese noodles, banh mi's, which were maybe even a little bit less than that, maybe 30,000, 25,000, maybe even half of that, but in general, it takes me 2 of them to get full. And there's definitely been a few items you can get for about 40,000, which was the amount I wanted to tip that buffalo guy. According to this, though, Pattaya, The cheapest food you can get is 120 baht, $3.35, which is untrue. But in general, what they count as an inexpensive restaurant is a sit-down restaurant where you actually go inside. But in Thailand, a lot of things are like street food or these kind of stalls where you buy food either to go or, you eat it like next to the side of the street on a plastic table. It's much more comfortable eating at a street side vendor in Thailand than it is in Vietnam, by the way. We have normal sized chairs here. They're plastic chairs, like lawn chairs, but they're just like a normal sized chair and table. So you're pretty comfortable, most of the time. In Vietnam, it's always going to be these miniature, like children's chairs that you sit like almost to the ground, which might be healthy for you in some ways, but it's definitely not as comfortable. So from my personal experience, yes, you can get a very inexpensive meal in both places for about, let's say, $2. While in a nice restaurant, I think the costs are about the same, especially if you're having like Western food. But that actually goes to another question that we had, which food do I prefer? And I liked Vietnamese food, especially I like the banh mi sandwiches, I like pho. I liked trying all the different dishes, but when it comes down to it, it all tastes the same to me. Like after a week of eating different variations of rice noodles, whether it's thick pho, thin noodles that they don't call pho, but some other rice noodles, with soup, dry, stir fried, cold, hot, dipped in broth. They're all white rice noodles, and they all taste exactly the same to me. The grilled pork and things like that taste good, but there's not that much variation. And banh mi sandwiches are good, but you can only eat a sandwich that often without getting tired of it. Hands down, Thai food is better. A lot more variation. You can eat Thai food 3 meals a day, every day, for weeks, and have completely different spices and textures. I just love Thai food. However, the one thing that Vietnam has a clear heads up for, what do you want to call it, is the domestic beer, or beer in general. It's cheaper, much cheaper in Vietnam than in Thailand. Thailand kind of has like not really a monopoly, but it's controlled, where there's the major brands, Singha, Leo, and Chang. Those are the 3 base, big suppliers. They taste pretty much the same, and they have a kind of cap on the market. There's a few other things that they make here or import, like Heineken or Tiger, Sapporo, whatever. But they all kind of taste the same. They're all kind of like a lager type beer, and they try to make it look like there's a lot of different variety, especially if you go to like a 7-Eleven or something. But really, they're all kind of made by the same few distributors and manufacturers. You're not going to find craft beer from small breweries that distribute, because there's Thai laws against that, where you can only, if you're gonna make your own brewery, you can only sell it at your location. You can't export it. So in Thailand, the beer, it's okay. It's not expensive, but it's not as cheap but Vietnam's cheaper. Let's say that. And I actually think Vietnam beer actually tastes better. I probably tried all of them. Saigon beer is my favorite. But either way, it's so cheap, it doesn't matter. You're not going to lose. And when it's hot out and you have a cold beer, both Thailand and Vietnam are great. However, with imported beer, I guess it says Da Nang is cheaper. It's probably true, because we had a $10 pint of Guinness here the other day. $2.80. How much is that? $8. We had an $8 pint of Guinness the other day. You're not going to find that much good beer in Thailand from outside. But at the same time, that craft brewery I went to when I had craft beer in Da Nang, it was pretty terrible. I think I had 5 different beers and none of them are good. Coffee, water, things like that, about the same price. Groceries. Oh, this is interesting. Everything is cheaper in Vietnam, by a little bit at least, except for onions, apples, chicken breasts, for whatever reason. Also, if you like French bread, banh mi, it's much cheaper in Vietnam, because they were colonized by France for so long, and still carry French bread everywhere. Cigarettes are also way cheaper. You guess how much a 20 pack of Marlboros are in Vietnam? So first in Thailand, it's not expensive. 145 baht, $4, much cheaper than like whatever you're paying where you live. But in Vietnam, 30,000, which is $1.22. So my tip could have given that buffalo farmer a pack of cigarettes. I think giving someone a pack of cigarettes is a decent tip, don't you guys? As far as taxis, it's technically cheaper in Vietnam while you're driving, but if you're in traffic on a standstill, it's cheaper in Thailand. So Vietnam, it's great for short trips if there's no traffic. Da Nang, thankfully, doesn't have that much traffic, so you'll be okay. The only weird thing about Da Nang is they only have Grab. There's no Uber, there's no Bolt, there's none of that. And let me just double check that. Da Nang taxi apps. Yeah, that's basically it. The taxi companies itself, My Lin and Vien and Son, they have their own taxi apps as well to call an official taxi, but everyone just uses Grab. Thankfully, I never got overcharged, but I like to have options. Here in Thailand, you can always use Grab or Bolt. So you at least you can compare prices. And here also you have InDrive. You can never have to overpay. In Vietnam, you only have one option. So if they start surging or if there's no cars available, you're kind of screwed. Utilities and internet is cheaper in Vietnam. It used to be the same, but in the last couple of years, Thailand has gotten greedy the telecom companies in Thailand have gotten greedy, and I'm sure they paid someone off because prices have just like doubled in the last 5 years for no apparent reason. And there's less competition now between Thailand's only 3 telecom companies, AIS, DTAC, and TrueMove. They just decided to double the prices for really no reason. Thailand used to be great for Wi-Fi everywhere and for really cheap unlimited internet on your cell phone, but in the last couple of years, it's been kind of sliding. It's still good enough, but it's been a bit annoying, to be honest. You know, it's really funny here. It claims that clothes in Vietnam are more expensive, and that might be true if you're going to the mall and buying like official brand. But I guarantee you, nobody's buying a real pair of Levi's in Vietnam. They're just going to the markets and buying knockoffs. Rent and hotels are actually slightly cheaper in Vietnam. I mean, this is definitely true because when I was there, I was paying about $20 a night for an apartment, near the beach, at a hotel. Here, it would be, probably double that for a short-term hotel. So hotels are way better, way cheaper in Da Nang. Let's say that, or way cheaper, at least maybe not way better. And then, but long-term accommodation, Airbnbs, condos. I still prefer to be here in Thailand, especially because you can get like a nice condo that feels lived in and doesn't feel like you're living either in a hotel or in just like some kind of boring apartment with no facilities or a tiny pool that you can't really swim in. But yeah, we're lucky that both places are cheap enough where I don't think that should be the reason why you choose one or the other. We're very fortunate that both Thailand exists as well as Da Nang exists. I would never want to live in like Saigon or Hanoi or in these places. They're so loud. Hoi An as well. I would not live there just because it's so loud and so chaotic. Thailand is so much more peaceful. Even Bangkok's more peaceful. But Jomtin, this is my paradise. I'd much rather be here than in Da Nang overall. But if Jomtin didn't exist, I would happily live in Da Nang. Let's say that. I can make it work. I would probably only go to Hoi An once in a blue moon as a tourist, but I can live in Da Nang. I can get, a decent apartment. I can hang out on the beach. I can, go to good restaurants, eat food. I probably would actually stop eating so much Vietnamese food, ironically. And even though I was there, I'd probably eat like banh mi and pho maybe once a day, but then I would have to eat other other food. While here, I'm happy to eat Thai food every meal of every day and just have Western food once in a while. So that answers Steve's and Nellie's question. Hey, Johnny, out of those two countries, which would you rather live in given the circumstances in Ukraine? How long are visas for? You seem to prefer being close to the beach. Which country has better beaches? Take care, and thanks for the support of NAFO. Thanks, Steve. So, to answer your question, overall, I mean, Thailand is just better in every way. People are friendlier, they're more genuine. Infrastructure is just better. It's easier to kind of get around. There's less BS. There's less noise, noise pollution at least. I feel safer. You feel more respected here. You feel more welcome here. Thai people are just nicer. Just like it's a better energy. Both are technically Buddhist countries. I mean, you saw the big female Buddha, Lady Buddha in Da Nang, but Thai people will actually practice, Buddhism. They actually care about karma. They care about doing good things. In Vietnam, it's, I think, on paper, they're Buddhist, but they're not really. And I think it's like a very small percentage that actually practices, maybe like 15 or 20% or something. I mean, an easy, example is in Thailand, you can leave your motorcycle helmet on your bike and no one will ever steal it. In Vietnam, you can't do that. It'll get taken. So it's just like something that small, but that applies to everything, right? Here, I leave my shopping on my bike when I go to another store, just so I don't have to carry it. You can't do that in Vietnam. I leave my laptop out all the time. I leave my phone out. Da Nang's not dangerous. It's probably one of the safer places in Vietnam, but in general, just Thailand is better overall, and it's just a better feeling. I like the culture more. I like the people more. I like the language more. I like the food more. Like I've never had a desire to learn Vietnamese or to learn like whatever their Vietnamese martial art is. Versus Muay Thai is amazing, for example. Milo's 57 says, have I considered Plan B if going back to Ukraine is not feasible? Are you looking for more of a long-term visa in Thailand? As far as my plans, if going back to Ukraine is not feasible anytime soon, first off, I'm very happy to be sitting out the winter for the cold, but also the Russian presidential election, because a lot of things are going to change during the next couple weeks while Vladimir Putin gets reelected for the 20th time again. So it's gonna be a very volatile time. We'll see what happens. My apartment in Kyiv is still being rented out. She, is happy to be there, and I'm happy for her to stay as long as she wants because she's paying a higher rate than the monthly price would be month to month. So as long as she's happy, I'm happy. I still plan to visit Ukraine in spring or summer, but as soon as it's not freezing cold anymore. But if she wants to continue living there, I'm not gonna kick her out. I'm just gonna rent an Airbnb or hotel or something just to catch up with friends. Check out my car, which is sitting there in the snow still right now. As far as my Kharkiv apartment, unfortunately, the renter moved out. He left pretty abruptly because Russia was increasing their attacks on civilian apartment buildings, and it was dangerous to be there. Thankfully, or hopefully, my apartment is still standing. I have no idea, to be honest. But he's moved out, and unfortunately, he's left his things there. So I can't even re-rent it out to someone else. I have to wait for him to, find a time where it's safe enough for him to go back, or have a friend go there and get his things, and then that way I can clean it and then hopefully find another renter. But we'll see. I mean, if that place is empty and things get safer in Kharkiv, maybe I'll move back there. But we'll see. It's too soon to tell. I'm gonna give it another few months to let things kind of clear and decide then. And last question I'm going to answer from Rebecca Carr is, when and where will I be meeting my parents? And when do I intend to return to Kyiv? So the Kyiv thing I just answered, spring or summer, who knows? my parents, I'm actually going to be seeing them in about a month. Actually, oh wow, less than a month from now. They asked me to come back to the U.S. to visit because it's been exactly 2 years. I last saw them 1 month before the Russian invasion, so January 2022. And I thought about it and I realized there's no reason why I want to go back to the US. All my American friends, they happily come and visit me here in Thailand. And I just saw, a bunch of them. So I don't really want to go back to the US. It's expensive to go back. It's the opposite direction of where I want to be. So I told my parents, I said, hey, instead of me going back, how about I take that money and I buy you and Dad a plane ticket to anywhere in the world you want to go, and I'll meet you there. Anywhere in Europe, anywhere in Asia. And they chose Taiwan because that's their birth country, and they haven't been back in more than 5 years. So next month, I'm going to be meeting them in Taiwan. So stay tuned. Until then, thank you for watching. Thank you for supporting. Thank you for subscribing. Oh, you know what? Maybe that's the last bonus question I'll answer. Because someone else asked about that. It wasn't just one person, but Edward Murphy said, why has Johnny FD subscribers been at 250K for the last 2 years? It's a long story, but basically it's a mixture of Russian bots that were subscribing just to be able to comment and spread pro-Russian propaganda. Secondly, it was people who just followed me for Ukrainian news because I was the one living there. I'm one of the very few, Americans or English speakers that have a vlog in Ukraine before the war started and then during the war. And a lot of them are not interested in my life outside of me in Ukraine. So a lot of them have unsubscribed. And with the Russian bots, mostly because whenever they comment their Russian propaganda, I used to try to, respond with I used to try to educate, people on what was correct. I would respond with an article or an excerpt on why what they're saying is incorrect. But I realized, most of them are just bots where they're not reading it. They just, they've done their job by spreading it, and by me replying, it's boosting them up. So now I just block all that. It's been 2 years. If anyone still believes anything Russia says, they're either lying to themselves or they're lying to others. So it's not my job to try to educate every single anonymous person on YouTube. So sorry if you had a genuine question about something, but go ask Jake Bro. He has great daily updates or every other day updates on what's happening in Ukraine. That's not my job. I'm just trying to live my life and I'm trying to answer questions from just a normal human being, civilian's point of view. I'm not a war expert. I was never in the military. Jake was, so he can answer your questions about that much better. But yeah, in general, it was a combination of people subscribing for reasons that I no longer am delivering. A lot of people subscribed to me because I had Bald and Bankrupt in a lot of my videos on traveling with him. So maybe they subscribed hoping to see more videos of him. Kind of like a Bald and Bankrupt behind the scenes tour, I guess. But since I'm not traveling with him anymore, a lot of them have either unsubscribed or just kind of stalemated. And to be honest, all that has actually hurt my channel a lot, where YouTube hates it when people subscribe and then they don't watch. Which is why I hardly ever tell people to subscribe, because I think it's actually bad to have too many subscribers that are not watching. I want my loyal watchers, the people like you who are watching all the way to the end, to just naturally subscribe or naturally, just watch my channels even though you're not subscribed. And I don't want to encourage others to subscribe just to do it. So I'm not doing any tricks or anything to get people to subscribe. So I hope that answers your question. Thank you so much for watching. Actually, do me a favor, if you have watched to the end and you do plan on watching all my videos, or at least the majority of them, do click subscribe, because that does help kind of fix the algorithm a little bit. But it is what it is. Thanks again to everyone who has been supporting Ukraine for the last 2 years. Thank you to my friends who have come visit me. Thank you for the sweet hat. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Till now, take care.